But we wanted to give all of the batches that missed out a chance to experience all the activities that we normally do in the reunion, including going to hostels and getting dunked into the pond. I hope is the Men's Hostel General Secretary here? Men's Hostel General Secretary, I hope you started filling the pond. Otherwise, Kingsley says he will not do the Meet the Students session. Okay. So on that note, we'll start this session. It's called Meet the Students. And again, it's a session with, we don't know what's going to come on stage. We really don't know what's going to come on stage. It's one of those things that, you know, you just meet the students, you probably have a name. And Kingsley and Kumar, who were doing it for 96, said, Macha, let's do a PowerPoint. This is at 10 minutes ago. Okay, that's the level of preparation. Whereas CME, 1 month ago, we started getting all the files. It's like entertainment. You know, as people walk up on stage, they just give a file and say, third song on the second folder in the main file. Just play it as I walk on stage. That's how we are at the end of 25, 30 years. Okay, so Meet the Students session. I'll hand it over to Dr. Alfred, and we'll start off. There's a little activity for students and alumni after this, which will be virtual again. But for the first, I'll call upon Dr. Alfred Daniel.
Thanks very much, Benji. That was a lovely introduction. Now, in addition to what Benji said about the COVID, one solid advantage has been the advancement of technology, where you see that screen there, where we can have both physical as well as virtual participation. And as a first example of that, the first speaker is going to speak to us through Zoom link, which Benji had arranged for earlier. The speaker is Dr. V.I. Mathan. He belongs to the batch of 1955, and obviously all the seniors definitely know about him. He's a world-renowned gastroenterology scientist, but personally for all of us, he's been the pillar of support for CMC through all the difficult times and through all the metamorphosis it went through right from its inception till much after his retirement. He's been a constant support, a well-wisher of CMC, and always had the best of CMC in his heart. So over to Dr. Mathan via a taped Zoom interview.
Check. When you can imagine the generation from which Dr. Alfred Daniel is, he said it's a taped Zoom recording.
That's my grey hair talking, pa.
Medical students, யாராவது நீங்க tape பார்த்திருக்கீங்களா? Have you seen a tape? They are, at this stage of their career, they're thinking of tapeworm because that will give them marks.
I'll get you for this, Benji. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. Remember that.
I will need your services soon, sir. I have just started playing basketball. Make sure this audio is on. Apologies for the slightly, typical Zoom recording, we didn't tape it, but the audio quality is slightly off, so you'll have to strain yourself. I've asked Prem to tweak the audio as much as possible, but apologies if some of it is not very clear.
It's a privilege to come back to Vellore, even though it is over the media, and to share this alumni reunion. I want to share with you some memories of CMC. Going back to 1955, when I joined there as an undergraduate student, first coming for the interview and then staying on to do the MBBS, and staying there for the rest of my life, the rest of my professional life, till I retired at the age of 60. My memories of life at Vellore are wonderful. I came to Vellore because I wanted to be trained to become a doctor at Vellore, although I had admission at the State Medical College in Kerala that year. This was the second year of the start of the Kerala College. But I was very clear that I wanted to come to Vellore, even though in Kerala I had a huge scholarship if I joined there. Looking back over the years, I have no regrets about my decision to come to Vellore. The last 60 years, 65 years from 1955 to now, when I have been associated with CMC Vellore and the Department of Gastroenterology. In fact, starting the department in 1962 have been wonderful. CMC has given me everything that I have and everything that I am, and I'm very grateful to it. It's a wonderful institution which allows you to grow as you want and gives you the freedom to experiment and develop as you go along. And this was clear in the way I started the Department of Gastroenterology. I came back to CMC in 1972, after finishing a year and a half of study leave at the Boston University with Professor Bob Donaldson. Those 1.5 years were very wonderful for me because it allowed me to work full-time in the laboratory without any clinical responsibilities. And I had no other responsibilities either as a senior research associate at the University of Boston. Bob Donaldson, who was my associate and chief, was a great person to work with. When I was going there, he asked me, "What is it that you want to do?" And I asked him, "Please collect some gastric juice so that I can purify intrinsic factor from that." And when I reached there, I found that he had about 3 liters of gastric juice frozen in several aliquots. And this was what I used in all the experiments I did there. I'm not going to go into the details of the scientific experiments because they have already been published, and my papers from Boston are part of my CV. But what I want to share with you is the experience of working as a full-time research fellow with no clinical responsibilities in an institution that was fully equipped for clinical research. I had no clinical responsibilities, although I was free to attend the weekly clinical meeting. They had to discuss interesting problems in gastroenterology, which I used to take part in regularly. And I remember the first case of amoebic hepatitis, which they got, which was a very rare case, in whose diagnosis I was involved in even before the clinical meeting. And I was given the opportunity to talk about amoebic disease and amoebic hepatitis in India at great length, an entity with which they were not familiar at all. This was a patient who had come to India and lived in North India for some years and then come back to America and got her hepatitis about 2 years after he returned. The full clinical details of them we have never worked out and not published. Working in this atmosphere with at least 6 other research fellows as a senior research associate was very exciting because each person had his or her own personal area of research interest, all of which dovetailed into Bob Donaldson's major research interest, which was in the absorption of vitamin B12 and an intrinsic factor. This was the area in which I worked, and I was happy that at the end of my year and a half there, I had 3 publications, one of which was in the Journal of Clinical Investigation, which looked in detail at the dynamics of the association between vitamin B12 and intrinsic factor. Took it right up to the jejunal receptor, but we did not have time to characterize the jejunal receptor, which was the next step, because I decided that at the end of 1.5 years, I wanted to come back to Vellore. My chief Bob was quite unhappy that I came back, and he actually offered me a permanent post to continue on with him as a senior associate. And actually, 2 years later, when Bob resigned from Boston and went to Yale University, I was contacted by the University of Boston, wanting to know if I wanted to come back and be the head of gastroenterology at Boston. I must confess that although this was a very good offer, I was not in the least bit tempted, because I was quite clear right from the beginning that I was to spend my whole life there, working at Vellore and in India for India. And now looking back at it many, many years later, I have no regrets about the decision I made. What stands out in my mind when I look at the last 60 years? It's the freedom which CMC Vellore gives to its faculty to develop academically as they would like, provided they find the funds to do it. The institution pays you to be professor of gastroenterology and to look after your patients and to do the teaching work. Anything you want to do over and above that, you're most welcome to do, but you have to find the time, and more importantly, you have to find the finances for doing what you want to do. I was very fortunate that my wife and I were working together, and she, as a histopathologist, complimented me as a clinician, and we could do things together to develop gastroenterology at Vellore. What do I think is the highlight of our work at Vellore? I think the thing which always bothers me even now is that although we found epidemic tropical flu, we could never find the cause of it. And this was because the nature of the epidemic was such that although ultimately large numbers of patients were involved and many of them died, it was over a period of time. And it was not an abrupt outbreak of an epidemic of diarrhea. During my many years at Vellore, I was able to study many epidemics of acute diarrhea, and in several of them established the etiological agent which was causative, and also the way in which it was spread. For example, by contamination of a so-called protected drinking water supply in a village, where the man who went up to the water tank to clean it once a week, was actually having diarrhea when he was cleaning. And it gave rise to an explosive outbreak of Raspberry dysentery in that village. Such things will only happen in our country. Although I started primarily as a research worker, looking at vitamin B12 absorption. Once I finished my period with Bob Donaldson in Boston and came back to Vellore, it became very clear that I had to develop a clinical gastroenterology unit. And this was because in 1972, which was when I came back from Boston, it was clear that the institution was going through a difficult situation and that a good clinical department was the basis of whatever else was to be developed. So in 1972, we started the clinical gastroenterology outpatient service, starting on Tuesday and Friday afternoons. And I had one colleague with me at that time, Dr. Cyrus Kapadia. And Cyrus and I would go to the gynecology OPD by about 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesdays and Fridays. Gynae OPD would be just about closing up, and we would wait there for patients to come to us. Initially, these patients were all referred from other units for a gastroenterology opinion. But by 1974, I was able to establish an upper GI endoscopy service, the first one in India. An interesting story about how this started. I realized in 1974 that unless we started doing upper GI endoscopy, at that time there was only upper GI endoscopy available. Colonoscopies had not really started. I could not develop gastroenterology further. I applied for a research project to WHO to study the gastric physiology and histology in patients with iron deficiency anemia and appropriate controls. And as part of that, I included a gastroscope so that we could record the appearance of the mucosa and also do biopsies and study it. A paper was published on the gastrointestinal histology in such patients with Dr. S.K. Vaish, who was Dr. Baker's assistant at that time. That's the first doctor. But this was what enabled me to get a gastrointestinal endoscope. And I did the first endoscopy in November 1964, a few months before the big strike in CMC in 1965. Once the facility for gastrointestinal endoscopy was available, patients started coming in and referrals came from other departments. And all the surgeons felt that they would like to have a biopsy confirmation of the diagnosis of gastric cancer before they operated on the patient. And so right from the beginning, there was no dearth of clinical material for us to work on. The problem was that there was no department of gastroenterology. There was only the Wellcome Research Unit, which was primarily a research unit. And I was fortunate that the people who joined me as research fellows to help in the research program in the Wellcome Unit were very happy also to do the clinical work of being in a gastroenterology department. And at this point of time, at the beginning, I'm particularly grateful to Dr. Roy Verghese, Dr. Honorine Ward, and Dr. Annie Ullman, who worked with me to establish the department in the early years. This was done in the W ward, which was initially built as a 10-bedded ward for patients with diarrhea and malabsorption to be investigated, and then expanded with 10 beds for Dr. Sheila Pereira to do what was her work on Akshoka. It was an interesting experience to develop this and to work. The Department of Gastroenterology at Vellore now has progressed a long way from this small beginning with an active TM training program, participation in the training of MD students, and also a research-based PhD program, both for non-medical and medical people. The department is going from strength to strength, and the present leadership is outstanding. I wish them all the very best. Thank you. I have a particular message for the students. CMC is a unique institution which allows you the freedom to use your full potential while you are a student. I could start my research work when I was a student, way back in 1960, long before most of you were born. And the facilities that are available now for individual research work at Vellore are outstanding, better than at any other institution in India. And I would urge students to find something they would like to work on, and then persuade one of their teachers to be their mentors, to guide them in what they want to do, and start their research work while they are students. Once you start your research work while you are a student, you will carry it on for the rest of your life, and you will have a very rewarding life. I started my research as a student. Looking back at it 40 odd years later, I have no regrets for the investment I made in research. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm not sure if sir has managed to join us online, but he said he would try. So that was the taped conversation that we had. See, one of the things that, now that we've got alumni and students, is that sir was one of my orthopedicians. You made a diagnosis on my knee. I forget what the diagnosis was. Osgood-Schindler disease. I don't know. Sir looked at me and 10 seconds later he had a diagnosis. He's my physician, my teacher. For a lot of us, he's been our teacher. But when it comes to after you finish college, I can still pull his leg. And that's something that sets apart a lot of the CMC interactions when you go out, when you go abroad. And I think something as students, you will probably not feel it now, but at times you will feel it. And all through the COVID pandemic, I know this gets a bit sensitive, but all through the COVID pandemic, the number of alumni who was reaching across, in various cities to try and do their best when beds were full. The network was, buzzing with activities, saying, "No, I need a bed, I need some help." Every question was, "Is there a CMC doctor? Are any of my seniors or juniors there?" I mean, sometimes when the people who treat my parents are my own juniors and students like that, and it's something, one of the things that is very, very reassuring. When I called up Dr. Mathan and asked him, "Sir is my super senior, and sir, would you like to tape a Zoom meeting?" I think I'm going to end up with a broken bone irrespective of what happens. He said, "Can I tape a Zoom meeting?" And he said, "I don't know how to do it, but we'll do it." He said initially he'll try to record it, we couldn't, but we finally ended up doing it on Zoom. Thanks a lot for that. So we're going to do a little activity. If it doesn't work, we won't do the activity. Stephen, don't put the screen on, because if it doesn't work, I'll pretend like it never happened. Okay, how many of you have, let me see, have used this thing called Menti? I've never used it, okay? So I just decided this is a good platform to actually try my Menti skills here. How many students, any of you have used Menti? Okay, I think a lot of you would have used. If it doesn't work, we'll just walk off and I'll ask the videographer and Joshua to cut off the last 5 minutes of this presentation. Okay, so we have 3 more presenters left. And just to make things a little, you want to switch over to this? So go to menti.com, MENTI.com. this is also the correct time to say that those of you who are visiting and don't have internet access, we have vouchers that you can get at a small cost. But we're just willing to give you the vouchers for intranet inside the auditorium and wherever you're staying. So menti.com, and the code is 96674184. The switcher takes about 2 seconds to switch, so if any of you put anything lousy, it will take me at least 2 seconds to turn it off. So I'd like you to all cooperate. This is a nice gathering. So just be a little sensible and put some things that you want people to mention. I don't know what happens once this fills up. AV room stories. I don't know, da. The other name for AV is Bush, I think. Bush is an AV company. We used to have audiovisual by Bush, the TV, no? I'm talking about that, nothing else. Okay, okay. Does somebody know what to do now that the screen's filled up? Oh, it keeps going down, yeah. Their love story, about your love life. You guys are 20 years old. Love, put it for later. MBBS, the other 4-letter word that is much better than love. Love stories, MHU pool party, if there's anything that, Valentine's Day store. Somebody wants to know about Noah. I'll get my 5-year-old child and she will come and tell you the story of Noah. There's a lot of animals in it, but I assume it's not that Noah. Noah, are you here? Noah's helping us a lot with entertainment, okay? So be good to him. Is it that Noah or some other Noah? Let's see. Hostel day, fun times in college. Serena, Gloria ma'am, Kumar, Kingsley, just keep a note. This is turning out better. Top 5. I mean, you can say top 4, top 3 because Alfie and me will anyway be there in the top 5. So top 3 we can make it. Oh my gosh. Noah again. Oh no, that's the same Noah. Top 5 interactions, the life in campus, hostel life. Okay, we won't go over. Okay, I've got that out of the screen. Vinay John, the legend. Okay. Okay, so I think that's quite a lot of things people are starting to want to know about Noah again. Okay, I think that's it. So I hope all of you. Okay, I think we'll stop for now. This turned out a little bit more interactive. So I hope. Oh my gosh, is there anything that I should? How's the life after CMC? Okay, that's something that you will all dwell upon. So I'll hand it back to Dr. Alfred for the next couple of sessions. Over to you, sir. If you're all comfortable with Menti, we'll try to use it during entertainment and a couple of other things. I hope I've not missed something that I should have censored out or something. Okay, that's good. You can switch back there. How did you manage kids? None of us had kids in college, okay? Yeah, over to you, sir.
Look what you've started, Benji. I mean, this is what technology does to you. It's so unpredictable. At least taping and editing, you have some control over. But this kind of Menti.
As a CMC alumnus, I completely trust the students and the alumni, sir.
Yeah. No, the problem is, you don't know whether they've come for meeting the students and get inspired or come into some Milton Boone, kind of place. Everything seems to be romance and come on, man, you're not here for that kind of stories. That's which decade do you belong to? In my decade, there was something called Milton Boone. Right. So now, as a contrast, we have one of the 90s kids talking to us, and that's Dr. Serena. So, yeah.
Hello all, thank you for being here, especially those of you who are here voluntarily. Thank you for coming. Certainly, my family and our batch haven't had that luxury. I just want to say hello to our 4 classmates who are on Zoom. Hi, Rupa, Shakun, Suma and Anjali, I think I saw your names there. Hello and welcome. Thank you for having us, and thank you for allowing us to reminisce for a few minutes. We hope to cover some of those excellent points that you raised on Menti. So I understand nowadays you all are batches of 100. We used to be batches of 60. We became 59 because our Government of India candidate, she moved to the next batch. We were slightly more boys than girls. We were really, I mean, our batch gets along so well. Yeah, we were a wonderful mix of all sorts of talents, and several of us without any identifiable talent, but most of us. We were musicians, there were dancers, some of whom you'll see later. We were playwrights, poets, geniuses, some at the other end of the spectrum, but we all did our best. We did get into trouble, but not too much, and I would say not for too long. I believe that we were known as the Mud Batch, and the name, I mean, it's news to me, but then the incident is seared into all our minds, because I'm not sure whether you all still go to community health for a posting. We used to go for a month's posting, and the boys stayed in the village and the girls came back in the bus. So the boys had got into the habit, and I believe this was a tradition at the time, so it certainly wasn't something our boys started, but they would dunk us with water as the girls' bus left the village, and it was always a little bit of a game, you know, where did they stop? Where did they have the water? When would we relax our guard in time to open the windows, and then they'd catch us, and so on. So we decided we weren't taking this lying down, and we got onto the bus with fistfuls of sand in our hands. So the inevitable happened. They pelted us with water. We fought back with sand. Everyone's feeling very pleased with themselves, except it seems our teachers, who were sitting in the front row of the bus. So we were told on the following day, in no uncertain terms, and gosh, that memory is seared into my brain, by Dr. Sara Bhattacharjee, so what she thought of our collective behavior, and that for all the sincere hard work they did, that we thanked them with mud in their hair. Okay, we didn't do that again, and ma'am, if you're listening in any form, we're sorry. Where is she? Where? Oh, no! We're sorry. Okay. We apologize to all of you. Thank you. We did work hard when required. Some of us were not above doing the bare minimum, but I think on the whole we were as successful as we needed to be in our college life. Now, I'm hoping to go through some photographs, and those of you who are current batches, and you know, y'all are called the millennials, or y'all are younger than the millennials, Generation Z, Generation Alpha or A or whatever. We are perhaps a little unkindly called the analog generation. In that, some of our photographs look like that, and some look worse. I think we've done remarkably well as a generation adapting to the digital age, and you'll see as we come on to our more recent photographs, they're of excellent quality, no fading and so on, yes. So we were a lively and spirited bunch. As you can see there, I think some people have still not stopped partying, but you know, whatever. We made some lovely friendships while we were in college, and there you see Dr. Jakin Vallavan, who actually, as a young girl there with Jessie, one of our classmates, we made thoughtful and enduring friendships. And here are more people who are in the room. You see Dr. Priya Makadin, and now Dr. Priya John, Dr. Anuradha Rose, who the ladies will certainly know, Dr. Indu Koshi, Dr. Anika, now Amrithanand, and Dr. Saumya Mukha. Friendships that endured. We were parts of groups of either foster families, social groups, EU, SCM. We went on some wonderful trips. We went to Yelagiri, we went to Mahabs. We had a lot of fun, whilst we studied, of course. So I think I didn't have too many pictures of Samson, who is also with us, and will do our CME talk. So if you look along that top row, Samson is third in the top row with the glasses, and next to him is Reginald, who we are hoping to see this weekend. And there are, of course, several others of us who will turn up in a few more photographs. This one, again, a few people who are here. Dr. Anita Samraj and Shobna, Dr. Shobna Sugirthamuthu. Dr. Anita Samraj and the young lady in the hat, Dr. Mabel Vamanan, the two of our lady surgeons from the batch, and Dr. Shobna Sugirthamuthu, a family physician who helps her husband with his ophthalmological research, and also helped with Tamil Nadu's COVID response. Here, a few more lovely ladies, Mabel again, Shobana again. We were hoping that Christabel, who's second from right, could be here, but sadly she isn't. So coming on to, I believe hostel days was on Menti as well. So you see, this was men's hostel day. And, the themes were imaginative, the props were often impressive. I mean, the boys tried their best, but the girls were better. Yeah. So I understand we were, I believe in our time, we were known as quite a pretty batch. And I'm sure if you look at the ladies down here, you'll agree. Yeah. Inevitably, you look through photographs of when you were in college, and you see you're having a lot of fun, but sometimes it isn't always clear what's going on. So I believe that's Dr. Lothika Mishra up that tree, Deepa Mary Philip halfway down, and Dr. Anjali Lecture, who's on this call, holding what appear to be two cute mangoes. It doesn't matter. Okay. There's Dr. Indu Koshi, now Dr. Indu Zakaria, and Dr. Rajneesh Samal, who works in Baptist, Indu with her face painted. We must have been up to something. This photo is perhaps most cryptic of all. Does anyone remember what was going on here? Carnival. Okay, right, okay. So after, in between having all that fun, we must have passed a few exams. We became junior doctors. Rupa Paulos, who's also on this call, and a gastropathologist, bottom left in that photograph. Another picture, the top row, you see Dr. Philip Finney, top row right, who's an endocrinologist here with his wife and younger son. Their older son is also doing medicine. So inevitably, sadly, we graduated, came to a new phase of our lives, the traditional Jasmine chain. We were actually quite a few from Vellore. If you think of 60, and we were about 10 from Vellore and the immediate surroundings. 6 of them were staff kids. I understand the proportion similar now, 10 out of 100. 4 of us were children of alumni. And after a reshuffle, I mean, it's not exactly the same people who came back, there are still 10 around Vellore, 8 of whom work in CMC. And I'll show you a few photographs, and I'm sure you will recognize the people who are here, who are in senior posts. Not so much then. So this is a picture of a very young Dr. Anuradha Rose, Dr. Priya John, and Dr. Saumya Satyendra, Dr. Saumya Mukha. So Dr. Anuradha Rose, of course, Community Health, now Women's Hostel Warden. Dr. Priya John, the General Secretary of the Christian Medical Association of India, in relaxed mode. And Dr. Samya Mukha, Associate Director of HR and an internal medicine consultant. And we're proud of this board. As you see, the first name on the board, Dr. Ida Scudder, our founder, and the last name, Dr. Anuradha Rose. And this is all of them, except, of course, Anjali, Dr. Anjali Lepcha in the center, now in Australia, sweetly on this Zoom call, but you'll recognize Dr. Thomas Samuel Ram, Dr. Anitha Ennatam Doreraj, Dr. Priya Marman in psychiatry, Dr. Anuradha Rose again, Dr. Jakin Velavan, Dr. Anika Amrithanand, Dr. Samya Mukha and Dr. Mukha, all of them, you know, eminent. And thank you very much for all you've done to arrange this alumni event for us. And thank you for looking after us so well while we're here. So where did we go? I think that was a question as well. So you see, like, before super spreader events were a thing, the batch of 90 happened. So 34 of us are still in India, 12 are in the UK, 5 are in the USA. We've got one actually in Nairobi, a recent transfer, as it were, one in Singapore, one in Malaysia, 2 in the Middle East, 1 in Papua New Guinea, and 2 in Australia. So we went far and wide. If we could just deploy someone to South America, our quest for world domination will be complete. So when it comes to specialties, really, we've covered everything, I think. So really, the practical bit of it is for the current students. If you'd like to come and find one of us and see what it's like, see what you want to do, please do. We would love to meet you and talk to you. Yes. So, you know, maybe it had something to do with being one of the pretty batches in CMC, but we were active. No one was spared. So those are a few of our CMC marriages, the ones that I could get photographs of. So top left is Dr. Anandita Roy and Shaji, one of our PGs at the time. Then next to that is Dr. Priya John with Suviraj. The one along from that, Balvinder, our classmate, with Nidhi, our junior. Then Dr. Anuradha Rose again with Winsley, our junior. In the middle, Dr. Anika Amrithanand and Rohit, who I understand is men's hostel warden. And right bottom is Dr. Jyotsna Alexander from our batch with Paul, who was a year above us. And Anjali, thank you for that adorable photo. Anjali couldn't, that's bottom left, couldn't find her wedding photograph. So that is literally a photograph on a cake. And these are our 3 within batch marriages. Sunil and Indu, top left, Thomas and Anita, top right, and Mukha and Saumya, bottom. Yeah. So we've come to the stage where we are producing our own graduates, really, our batch kid graduates. You see, top left, Thomas and Anita's, and you probably know Sharon and Abigail. So Sharon's passed out, yes, it's a bunch of Abigail's friends there, I expect. Along in the middle are Joshua Jasper, who was batch of 2016. And Sneha, his sister, who's doing law, Along Anju Chandi and her son, who's just finished his medical degree in Australia. Bottom left, Jessie, whose daughter Cynthia has just finished her physiotherapy. And bottom middle, Shobi and Pari with their lovely Blessy, who's going to be married soon. She's just passed her medical degree from Pondicherry. And bottom right, Sunil and Indu with Tarun, who's just finished his degree in the University of Leicester. We're very proud of them. There's several more in the pipeline. As we know, Dr. Melvin Martin and Dr. Anne Martin, their son Jonathan in their second year. Samson's daughter Shiona in her second year, I think. Is this first year? Sorry, Samson. And Philip's, Finney's son in his second year. As we said, Anita's Abigail. Oh, I'm so sorry, Abhilasha. Apologies, Abhilasha. So lots of people in the pipeline and doing ever so well. Yes, we're all very proud of you. We're also thinking of those in the NEET system who are waiting or just have got their results. All the very best to you. I hope your dreams come true. So we are a very, very social batch. We catch up as often as we can, wherever we can. So you see top left, that's the Vellore gang having a lot of fun. I love that photograph, so much laughter. Top right are our friends from Delhi, Priya, one of them. And bottom is all of us from the UK. There are 12 of us there. There were 8 of us there on that occasion. So we catch up as often as we can. We have very sociable batchmates, and I think every batch probably should have some. If you don't have them, you probably do already. So this is Dr. Archana Matthias, who keeps track of all our birthdays and anniversaries. What would we do without Archana? She's the one who's recently moved to Nairobi. She does anesthesia. And what did we do before WhatsApp? We have such an active group, sort of 50 to 100 messages a day, and there's sort of about 80% of them are attributable to these two people. Shakun, I know you're on the call, and that's Dr. Shakuntala Ghosh, private ENT surgeon on the left, and on the right is Dr. Rajshekhar Reddy, neurologist in Max, a super specialty hospital in Delhi, and we see pictures of their lunches, we see pictures of their trips, we see pictures of their pets and their gardens, and we enjoy all of them, because if one of the other of them is indisposed, our group goes quiet. So thank you very much. This is something we're quite proud of. Our 25th reunion was in 2015. We hold the record for the number of alumni to attend an alumni reunion. 50 out of 59 were there. Yes? So I'm sure there'll be people who will take that as a challenge. All the very best to you. I just want to say that if you've got 100, it doesn't count. It's proportionate. And there we are, yes. So just wanted to say, I'm sure you all are really hardworking. You have to be where you are. But when I was thinking about what I would have liked to know when I was a student, it is not to be caught up too much by what you think the timetable is. Yeah? Especially the girl students, maybe you get a bit of pressure saying, oh, I'll finish my MBBS, I need to be married by this time, I need to have my children by this time. Maybe you do, but if it doesn't happen for you, don't worry about it. Yeah? If we look at our batch, it's full of brave and unconventional people. We had a classmate who found love and marriage at 41. Our Dr. Evangeline Christian, Pastor Obs and Gynae MD at 47. We have Samson, who left a secure central government job to explore with his faith, low-cost, high-quality healthcare at the highest possible standard. We salute you. We have had 4 people change continents in their mid to late 40s to start a new medical career, yeah? Full of courage. I wish that for you. I wish that you will find happiness and fulfillment at your own pace. All the very best. I'd like to say thank you to all of you and to my personal technical team, Robbie and Katerina.
That's a perfect mix of fun and inspiration. Look at that hug. Okay, question to all the medical students. I love it when there's absolute silence. Question to medical students. Among their batchmates, which was the top specialty or PG that their batch had done? Ungla kekla. Okay, question to the medical students. Batch of 90. Of all the batch of 1990 graduates, what was the specialty most of them had chosen? Or which was the orthopedician? So here he is. You can tape a Zoom meeting, but you're still the top choice for everything. Yeah, thanks so much for that, Serena. I think it was a good mix that we had, and you covered a lot of the questions that they talked about, which again is really good. So what we'll do now is we'll go on to the batch of 1996, and we have Kingsley and Kumar. Now, medical students, those of you who were here 2 weeks ago, when 2 guys went on stage to talk, what was the proportion of talk done by male 1 and what was the proportion of talk done by male 2? Somebody said 99%. 100%. How many of you remember the talk? It takes a lot of, it takes something unbelievable to get a neurosurgeon, which was Santosh a couple of weeks ago, to stand there like this for 15 whole minutes and say 2 lines. Okay, so welcome Kingsley and Kumar. I think what's happened is they walked in at 1:45 and said, Macha, we are giving the talk. I said, yeah, I know. Do you have a PowerPoint? No. And then they looked at each other, no, we will make one. Okay. So that's how, last minute submissions take inspiration from this. If it doesn't work out well, don't do last minute submissions. Over to you, Kumar and Kingsley. Yeah.
So thank you, Benji, for that kind introduction. So at the outset, me and Kingsley, we are and of course our entire batch, we are feeling so wonderful to be back here. It's a surreal feeling because when you come back for the alumni reunion, you're not just coming back to a physical place and you're slipping back in time, you're becoming students again. So it's a wonderful feeling, and we are very glad here to stand here and to talk to all of you, including past alumni as well as students. So I can see that our last minute slideshow is up, so we'll start off. So I want to start by saying that I was the best outgoing student from my batch. So thank you very much, but that actually, if you ask me personally, was not the greatest achievement which I did when I was here. So I would like to show you what my greatest achievement was when I was here. So this is our men's hostel, we are all proud of it, right? So, and I was the hygiene secretary of the men's hostel. Okay, so I can see that it still resonates. So who's the current hygiene secretary? Is here? Okay, I share your pain. So when I came and I took over as hygiene secretary, so the thing which was brought to my attention immediately by a lot of people was that they said the bogs are in a very bad state. I hope the term is still used, bogs. Yeah. So for anyone uninformed, it's the term referring to the bathrooms of the hostel. So when we were there, it wasn't even tiled. It was like the old stone, original construction, rich in fungus and algae, walls dripping beautifully with water and all that. So, and they said, now, Kumar, you have to now, get this done. You have to renovate it. So I was like, I have no clue. What do I do? So then I got a lot of good inputs and all, and some seniors came to me and said, look, you going and simply talking to the administration and all won't work. You have to draw a picture. You have to show them the true state of things. So being like not at all an artist myself, I enlisted the help of a talented junior, and I said, come here, man. I want you to draw a picture now and show how things look. So to his credit, he was a wonderful artist. He actually drew a nice schematic of the hostel, showing where cracks exist, where there were weeds growing through the walls. And he did such a wonderful job. And I took that picture to our then GS, who is also related to our batch, Dr. Jasper Daniel. And it was such a wonderful job of art that he took a look at it and he said, okay, I will send someone to inspect the hostel. And then the inspection was done, things were approved, and then we got the new. This here is my best achievement. So now I sadly understand that probably this has now been done over and my legacy has been painted over, but it's okay. Time moves on. So the other thing, you see, studies were always there, but they were... Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sorry. All right. So there were other challenges for us other than studies. For me personally, a greater challenge was as soon as we entered men's hostel, very quickly we had to know the names of all our seniors. Do you still have that stress? Yeah. So it's a major task. So, but then, we had all varieties of seniors, right? But some of them were very friendly. So, some of them would actually help you when you went and you were caught and somebody comes and says, hey man, what's my name? Do you know me? So if you know, you're fine. But there were some seniors who were very friendly. And I remember once we were all sitting at the mess table and someone asked, do you know him? What is his name? So obviously that person who was asked, he didn't know. And then the senior was so friendly, he gave a clue. And here's the clue right on the slide, and now there's a quiz for the medical students here. Can you guess who is this senior? He's obviously senior to our batch. And the second clue is, he's there here right now, very much a part of the proceedings. So who is this?
Benzene.
Yes. So we have been trying to understand. Okay, you got it. So there is benzamine here, right here. Okay. So we have been asking Benji what is the secret of his metabolism, where he stays exactly as he was in 1994. But at least we know his formula now. So before I hand over to Kingsley, I want to say a last word. There is this old Bruce Lee movie called Enter the Dragon. I don't know if any of you would have seen it. Yeah. Okay. Now, there is a very popular dialogue in that, or at least for me, it was a very profound dialogue. The bad guy in the movie, the villain, he says to one of the characters, it is not success, but failure that you must prepare for in life. It's a very profound statement. We can all be happy and be, basking in happiness as long as things go right. But it is when we face failure or rejection, when we start, getting discouraged or wonder what to do. And equally profound was the reply given by the character who says, defeat, when it comes, I won't even know, because I'll be too busy looking good. So that's what I want all of you guys to keep in mind. Work hard, play hard, enjoy your time here in this wonderful institution, and to show some of the fun stuff, which we all did, I'll now hand over to my more dynamic batchmate, Kingsley.
Okay, that was Kumar, our best outgoing. So, we had the best outgoing, the true UG, PG, and super specialty from CMC who has gone through with this. And we are now going to look back. Okay, this is our batch girls who had their own ideas about photography in those days, Instagram-worthy stuff which they could do. So, I just want to run through how life was for us when we came. The mansion of the gods. As the women's hostels lights say, the mansion of the anagram of God, so I wouldn't say that here. So, when we entered our first day, we were so happy. We were treated so well, actually. It was so nice. The stories we heard didn't happen on the day we reached. We were confused, and still we went to bed. Night at must have been 1 o'clock or 11:30, I think. We were woken up and brought to LCR. Okay. And we were made to stand at the back. We were all quiet, confused, sleepy, lost. And in front of us, we had a guy sitting with a hammer, and there were so many other people in the same room, all in different parts of dressing, standing there. And they were talking. And what was the discussion? Should there be an initiation or no initiation? Or more to say, should there be a ragging or no ragging? And we were confused standing there. And there was one guy who was saying point 1, 2, 3, 4, why it is important as a tradition that we should have it. And there was one other person opposite talking so vehemently supporting why it shouldn't be there. And we were standing there. Then at 20 minutes, half an hour, they said we are breaking. And the same guys who are arguing for and against were having a cup of coffee, happily chatting as if there was no enmity between them. Because inside that room, I saw given a chance, they would have cut each other's throat. It was that much of energy was there. And all for our sake. And that batch, the previous batch had issues all over, and whole of Tamil Nadu was in a big situation at that time. And finally, they decided that we shall be treated in a unique manner, which is going to be special for men's hostel. So, and we were treated well. And when it came out, it was such a wonderful thing that we realized what happens inside the governing board, the general body meetings that we have is not about enmity. It was a debate. It was a discussion which was happening there. It was a dialogue which was happening there where people were given the freedom to make a choice. And it was not that people were forced to do things. It was where we saw democracy in action, and we had no clue what our rights were. But this is how we started on day one. And it was such a wonderful feeling to know that there are people speaking for us. There are people who are actually talking about what each student's rights are. And this was at the student level. So hostel life was such a bang that we entered. And it was really good that we started that way because we had a new way in which we looked at our seniors. They were no longer like the ones that we could be scared of running, but we could relate to them. We could feel that what they spoke, they meant from a different manner, and we could relate to it. And it was in a way very good that we were truly in the mansion of the gods. We had our own fun, enjoying each and everything. Our batch is a little special in various ways. If you take our batch, it is one of the most unique sense that it can't be compared with others. We had our senior batch who is here, who have come for their 30th reunion, and still they have numbers more than us. So I should really say that our batch is unique in certain ways, that we stand apart, but we have our own set of ways in which we interact. If you look at it, our girls are one of the prettiest. We had 2 Miss Women's Hostelites, okay? Normally each batch has only 1, our batch had the 3, woo! Oh no! Okay. We had 2 Mr. Men's Hostels also from the same batch. I hope you guys beat that too. No, okay. See, yay! So this hostel rivalry is something very nice. And I really felt good about the way things were happening. So if our hostel projects... Oh my God, I'm not competing. There are more things to say, but we'll go one at a time. Okay. So the hostel rivalries is something which we learned first year as the things were such a wonderful way of working on a project. Our project was the Lotus Temple, the men's hostel, and the Rangoon Pagodas, not the pakodas. So that was from the women's hostel. We worked hard, and it was such a pretty sight when it came. We couldn't believe ourselves that we actually did it. And such joy that we could come together. We didn't realize that what happens in men's hostel, women's hostel should not be heard. She's really meant that it shouldn't be heard in the other place. So we were not to discuss in each of our classes, how we went about it. So when we moved up in years, our girls wanted to know, when we were the governing board batch, wanted to know what our projects were. They were very smart. They came to the men's hostel at 5 in the morning, hidden, hoping none of the guys are up, and wanted to see what the project work was going on. And you know one of the guys who spotted them? Vinay woman, and he was chasing our class girls. Okay, so Vinay woman was actually chasing our class girls out of men's hostel because they had the spirit to come inside to see what was happening, what kind of projects that was being done. And they made a banner. We had a football stadium. That was the World Cup year, 98. So it was a huge football stadium that was being made. So they made a banner for us, and it was ole ole throughout that whole season. So we had fun and rivalry between the hostels, and it was really good. And we sent juniors into women's hostel. They had to creep through, take photographs, and come back. Sadly got caught also. But it was fun. So we had these kind of inter-hostel things. And the governing board lunches from the men's hostel going to women's hostel, we went in dhotis. Okay? Mind you, going with a dhoti into women's hostel is no joke. Because we were tried to be disrobed right there. Okay? It was fun. And the girls, when we brought them on the tricycle. You have a tricycle in the men's hostel? Mess? No. Okay. There used to be a tricycle which needs to be pedaled in. We used to get our stock from the hostel for the hostel. So we had a tricycle which we had to pedal, and we put a chair on it, and the women's hostel general secretary was put on the chair, pedaled from the women's hostel to the men's hostel. So the men's hostel drive is a slight slope. So it speeds up on the curve, and my women's hostel general secretary was brave enough to sit and confident enough that we won't throw her off. But as they reached, we still did ducking. You guys do ducking? Or now it's very dangerous. All of you have phones in your pockets. But in those days, it didn't really matter. There was ducking everywhere. Okay, whether you like it or not, you get into the pond, you get ducked, and if that doesn't work, we get even more fun doing all of that. So this is one of our work where we did all this. This is our first year graduation, where our inter-batch, that is 2 years, Benjamin's batch with us, so 94, 96, we did the graduation work, college day graduation work. So when we did that, we realized what inter-batch relationships can develop. So we have 2 beautiful couples which came through from that. One is Koili and Santosh, which was a 94 boy and a 96 girl. The other was Ashish, Jacob Matthew, and Priya. So that was 96 boy and 94 girl. Because the post-graduation picnic was the boys of the senior batch goes with the girls of the junior batch for the Amriti picnic. Does that picnic happen? No? Okay, you're too new. Okay, post-graduation, the organizing batches which helped out used to have a day off to have a picnic. They're going to clean up the place. Post-cleanup, you can have a picnic. So that picnic we used to have. So the 94 batch and 96 batch went, and it was a good time of interaction which further developed. Our ducking didn't even spare even if you're in the bathroom for other purposes. Okay. This guy is Anish. Oh, so he's not here now, he's in Australia. And that was Edwin. He was actually going for a bath. We just speeded the process because we would like things to happen very fast for us. Our boys and girls were a way apart. Okay, when we did our football, which was the in thing of playing and thing, the girls were at War and Peace. The white and the black. So they were way apart. So our batch was special in such a way that in our first year, we sat boys separate and girls separate. Okay. And when we came to pharmacology, okay. Yeah, so so when we came to the pharmacology, we were actually mixed up, saying that you cannot sit like this. You have to mix up and sit. So boys and girls were mixed up, and it didn't work out. And even in our final year, it was boys and girls. And now also, if you see, the girls' row is one side, the boys is on the other side. So we do have a big separation that way. Probably that explains why only 3 of our batchmates got married within the same batch. So we have only 3 couples within our batch. Okay, I think our people, like Betty was saying, Dr. George Chandy told her, pray for a good spouse when she went for her clearance, and she prayed, and her spouse came from outside CMC. So most of our batchmates were praying for spouses, and they got spouses from outside CMC. So our batch has one of the another distinctions that they won all 3 music competitions. So I'm sure you would have heard about people who had not won music comms last time. So this is the batch which won all the 3 music comms. And it was very good that we had a bunch of people who were multi-talented. There were different levels of singers, musicians, and they could come together. And we created 5 different backdrops on the first music competition. So which was a big thing because it was all hand-painted, done, and it was not easy with those things. So we really thought it was something special in those days. And going on, that became a good decoration for most of our rooms. So it worked very well, those things. Our gumbals really made an impact most of the times. And the last one was this. We will see more of this tomorrow evening, right? Yeah. So that's not. So sadly, most of our musicians are not here, but still we will see the gumbal. You're going to see the impact of it. So the batch had various first times. So they won. Do you guys have an impact? Okay. So our batch won Music Com, Impact, and there was an interclass relay, all of them in the same year. And we have the thing of winning this. So we had a rolling trophy also initiated. I don't know if it is still there. So SA, is it still there? The same batch which wins all of this. So it looks like it's gone down. So those are different things. But yes, our batch had its own ways in which it handles. And it is unique in those things. You see what they are doing? This was the famous Macarena step in those days. So every other batch had a Macarena. And we also had it. You guys know the Macarena? No. Demo. Okay. Demo. Come tomorrow evening. It's going to be there. So our hostel life, as with any other things, had its own share of fun and stories, and we all scripted it in different ways. And it wasn't until that we realized that even with our differences, we have our coexistence. Because each one is unique and different, and our friendships bloomed accepting those differences. And we do have a different way of communication, and the way we interact as a batch at sparks where it fully blows and at times when it comes together. You see this? A good high quality picture. We went for different retreats. One of them was, our first year retreat was to Danishpet, second year retreat was to Yelagiri, and third year retreat to Erkad. So you guys can go to 3 different places, you know, for retreats. So when we went there, one of our batchmate's bladder was ready to burst, and he was trying hard not to inform to anyone, and he was holding, and he prayed earnestly that somehow it should be helpful. The bus tire burst. Okay, so that is when he sneaked out, and the girls decided to party on the hay. So this again, if you notice, there's only one guy up there. Okay, rest are all the girls. So spontaneity to do things and take a photo. This is one of the things that was unique in those days, because we had one person called Andy who always used to walk around with a big box camera and would strike a photo at any given opportunity for us. So he's also in this photo for us. Our girls, this bunch over here, they roam around everywhere on their own. They are notorious for making it after the wedding is over for the reception at all the times. They stick together, they have fun, and regardless of where it is, it's always happiness. See this guy? This was during our retreat. The plan was each girl was allotted a boy to put makeup on while they were sleeping. And some girls were caught while trying to do it, apparently, and some boys never realized what happened. The power of Colgate and close-up was realized because it burns more than just the teeth. Our boys reached new heights, new challenges. Each one is in a different place. The guy who is there with the blue t-shirt, he is roaming everywhere, right from Gaza Strip to Yemen to war-torn areas right now. So he's at a new, living on the edge. We didn't realize what he is doing now. From this photo, we realized he has always had it in those days. He's really living on the edge. I'm sure you still, do you have noodles time in the night? Yes. Yeah. So we do have that, and we used to make it. First years used to make it for the final years in those days as they were studying for exams, encouraging them to stay awake, and we provide making noodles for them, right? So we used to do that. It used to be fun because that way we hear stories about how you can study for your anatomy exam, how you can prepare, and we also used to get gyan in the night. So just want to share a story about our interactions between batches. I was one of the only guys in the first year who was sharing a room. After the initial slumming period, most of them got a single room allotment. Myself and I had a roommate called Sumit Tucker. We shared this room in the B ground room, and we were roommates, but we used to meet only in the class. In the sense like, I used to get back into the room because spending time with the seniors, talking, helping them through, so probably by around 2:33, he's a very nice guy. He will wake up at 4:35, get up, do his stuff, and he's up for breakfast at 7 o'clock to the mess. I wake up at 7:40 when the second bus is leaving. So I never used to see him in the thing, and we used to meet only in the classrooms. So during the physiology exam, I had asked him, please wake me up, and I'd gone to bed. So next day morning, as usual, I woke up only at 7:50. and I find a note next to my bed. I tried waking you up, you didn't get up. So we had fun in our way of living, and each one is different. Our batchmates play pranks in the wildest manner. One of the guys got lifted while he was sleeping, moved to the roof with candle lit all around him and kept, only to be woken up looking very bewildered. There are further events which happened after that which escalated further, but we won't talk about that. It's quite, what stays in men's hostel, happens in men's hostel, stays in men's hostel. Okay, so there are so many things that way. The same way, in women's hostel, they have their own set of things. 12 o'clock, closing time, has always been a challenge. And if you miss 12 o'clock, what happens? LIQ is open. So we had people moving to that way. I'm sure, is it special? No? Benji? Too much? I don't know where women's hostel is. It doesn't close up. All smartly dressed and looking like this, that was our final year. And we were very anxious about our final year when it came to it. We were studying so hard, we went through, and it was terrible. And my final year medicine exam, I just want to share what happened. My examiner was Dr. A.M. Cherian with me, and the exam went really not to my favor. And at the end of it, Dr. Cherian tried to help me also by asking questions, but I couldn't answer. So I went to his house in the night and asked, so what happened? I couldn't sleep, so I went to his house and asked. He's like, okay, fine. Everything, we will do your resource. In his usual way, he answered. So I was fully lost. And then coming back, he's like, you went to Dr. Cherian's house? How can you go and ask your examiner? So I never felt that you shouldn't do it, because it was so easy for us to approach our seniors, and it made so much life better. And this is something which we cherish here. There are few things about interaction with our seniors. I've had free lunches because we have written on the back of our professor's card, do you need a wash? Because it was dirty, so we were invited. Saturday afternoons, Vellore sweltering heat. We don't get into the bus, you wait for one of the staff cars going with AC on. Ask for a lift. So some of them have told like, no, I need to go to the market. It's okay, I'll carry your load. So it was not at all a problem. And I'll tell you, first clinical year, I think most of you may also undergo that. It's the slump year where you kind of go up and down, and then first clinical year I used to sleep off, and so did some of my classmates. So morning lectures used to be a big challenge to make it to college. So when you wake up and you come to catch a bus at around 9:05 over here, the principal finishes signing papers in the common block, and he's starting his car to leave from there. It's nice, very nice. You ask for a lift and they happily give you a lift. And through the journey, what happened? Slept off. Yes, sir. Okay, you shouldn't be doing this very often. No, sir, it just happened. No, I gave you a lift last week also. So it was like not at all an issue interacting with the senior people. When I was general secretary, we had a bad time. The junior batch party was too noisy that we had people living behind calling and telling, guys are too noisy. And the principal had to call us down to his office to discuss, why is your batch noise level so high? We were able to argue with them and say, this is the hostel, this is how it works. And they're like, okay, just tone it down, don't let complaints come. It wasn't in any way intimidating or scary, but it was more of a friendly banter where we could kind of go through. The overall experience of being in CMC was truly transforming from coming from a school to a college with so much freedom in it. So as students, we discover a new phase in our whole life where we see that it is not just how we shape ourselves to it. Because like Spider-Man says, no, with great power comes great responsibility. right? So we all are given a lot of freedom and power while we are here. And it is what that helps us to mold us to become better people in various ways. And that is truly what CMC has done to us in manner that we don't even realize, because certain things which we learn in our college, like an argument in a debate is not personal. It is only the point that you're trying to do it. It's not something that you have to hold against somebody and make it personal. That is something which I learned is so important, because it makes you feel you're not going to break a friendship just because you're pushing a point. It's something that makes sure that your relationship is still going to hold fine, because you're going to be having fun over things and not just you're grumpy over your differences. That's something that we felt good. Each and everything, our decisions that we make, you have GBs going on through the night? Yeah. So my first year experience of a GB, the hostel birthday cards given by the chapel secretary was written with a sketch pen. Okay. So they wanted 2 color sketch pens, and I think it was Shushil who was presenting, 94 batch. So 2 sketch pens which he wanted of a particular color, and they said you can buy it in Long Bazaar. After a lengthy discussion of why they can buy those 2 sketches, one senior walks in and says, I will donate a whole pack for you guys. You don't have to break your head. So we thought as first years, wow, drama over. Then there was a whole discussion. Who is he to donate? How can we accept something without thinking what comes with it? Is there anything added to it? How can you take it just because somebody is giving it? Oh my God, these are things which are like, don't think at that age. Okay, so it was interesting. Our carom striker took 2 hours of our time. Because it went missing, they wanted to etch MHU on it. Okay, so if you etch MHU on it, do you think the aerodynamics of the striker moving on top of the carom board would lift it off or make it fly out or crack? Wonderful discussions in first year which we found was like, oh my God, what is this taking? And this actually was a mindless banter at that time which was not useful. But it made us look at people like, you can talk, you can listen, you don't have to get upset over things. It brought patience in us. Okay. It wasn't like you rush through and do things. Whole year you need to attend the whole GBs with a tie and formal wear. Staying up through the nights with syringing of water into your eyes to make sure you keep it open. It was fun, but looking at it, it made sure that we are resilient to handle the whole course and the night duties we did later in life, keeping us through. So that was fun and thing about our college things. And our batch, if you look at it, are still strong and nice. Girls, it's you. So it's still going strong and fine, and I would like to say that life is just starting. Okay, like they say that your student period is the most enjoyable period. Enjoy it. As you finish it, there are more responsibilities. And for those responsibilities is what you're being prepared for. And CMC is such a wonderful ground in a protected way, in a manner that is not going to harm you, lets you develop into what you can be. So wishing you all the very best, signing off from batch of 96. Thank you.
And that is the Men's Hostel General Secretary.
Thank you, batch of 96, for that presentation, especially with the slides. I don't think Kingsley knew what was coming on next. Dr. Alfred says, I was not their principal at all. And I'd like to tell you, I was not your chapel secretary either. Just a few housekeeping announcements. Like I mentioned, we have 2 entertainment nights for all the students. You're invited to both. We have one more talk after this. So 2 entertainment nights tonight and tomorrow. If you want Wi-Fi access, please let us know. We'll arrange for it. There are a few things that are on the corridor for sale, including some mementos and other things which you can take. Batch of 2021 has to leave for a short session right now. I'll hand it over to Dr. Alfred.
Thank you. When Benji put up this Menti thing, And all those requests started coming up. I was a bit worried. But thanks, Kingsley, you touched every one of them. And Kumar, you were the hygiene secretary, and thanks for all the BOGS pictures. And by the way, BOGS also stands for Best Outgoing Student. We now have the last speaker of this evening for Meet the Students session, Dr. Glory Alexander. She's the founder director of Asha Foundation, a consultant physician for HIV/AIDS, and she's spent her entire lifetime working with them. And she has received many accolades and awards recognizing her service among those people. She's the recipient of the Double Helical National Health Award from the Honorable Health Minister, Dr. J.P. Nadda, in 2017, the B.C. Roy National Awardee in 2016, Karamveer Global Fellowship Award, and International Ashoka Fellowship Award, National Rajiv Gandhi Rashtriya Ekta Award, R.V. Rajam Commemoration Gold Medal, etc., etc., etc. So she's here to sum up the whole thing and inspire the students. Dr. Glory Ashok, batch of 70.
Should it be full screen? There, it's not. Good afternoon. I bring greetings from the batch of 1970. This picture is 52 years old and was taken in the year 1970. Would just like to begin by giving tribute to our classmates who have passed on, and there are 6 of them. 4 of them are there in this picture, and you can see that I have circled them in red. Mahendran Savriran, Elizabeth Paul, Elvin J. Vedamani, and Ajay Hala. 2 others, Mukund Ekbote and Ravi, we lost in our first and second years of college. So just to let you know that even after 50 years, you still remember your classmates that you knew just for a few months in the first few months of your college life. They continue to impact you and be a part of your lives even after that. I would also like to just place on record the lifetime of service that several of our classmates have provided to CMC Vellore. And so I would like to start with Sudipta Sen, who was a pediatric surgeon and worked his entire life in CMC, along with his wife Nagamani, who was an anesthetist. Dr. Suranjan Bhattacharjee, PMR, along with his wife Sarah Bhattacharjee. Suranjan was also the director of CMC. Dr. Renu Raju, who worked in the department of Shell Eye Hospital for a lifetime and was also the registrar of CMC. Dr. Dr. KCN, we refer to him as KCN, Nainan Chako, urologist, also gave a lifetime of service to CMC, and his wife Sarah. P.N. Vishwanathan, who belonged to the Department of Radiotherapy, and his wife Faith, who also worked there for a lifetime. I hope I have not missed. Have I missed anybody? There were 6 of them. And Sammy Solomon, who worked next door at the Karigiri Hospital. And Vinohar Balraj, who worked in the Department of Community Health, and his wife Suja Balraj. I guess all of them taught you over the years, so I'm just mentioning their names to just let you know that we all belong to the batch of 1970. I did see in small print on the mentee list life experience. So that's what I'm going to focus on as part of my talk today. This was way back in 1987. I was working as a junior consultant in the Department of Medicine at the Bangalore Baptist Hospital. I had just finished my MD in medicine from CMC the previous year. This was on a Monday morning, and I went to work after a restful weekend and found that there was a new patient admitted in the ward. The patient was a foreign national. He was breathless and he looked sick. He was unmarried and he was from San Francisco. I examined him and knew that he was going into respiratory failure and made arrangements to shift him to ICU, took his history, realized that he had a very bad lung infection, etc. And after talking to him, as I left the room, he said, "Doc, do you think I have AIDS?" This was 1987. I turned back and looked at him. I didn't even know how to respond to that question. I came back and I said, "What makes you think that you might have AIDS?" Maybe he saw the shocked expression on my face because he said, no, I got tested for it and it was negative. I just asked. And so I left the room, I went down to the library, picked up the Oxford textbook of medicine and read up on AIDS and realized that he was a classical case of PCP pneumonia. And at that time, HIV testing was not available in Bangalore or in Karnataka. I drew his blood and I sent it to the CMC lab. We shifted the patient to ICU. 48 hours later, he died. For the next 48 hours, his body was there in the mortuary, unclaimed. And then we came to know that, and we didn't know what to do because the patient was just lying there. There were no relatives. And then we got the social service department into the act, and they worked on it and found that this man had come to Puttaparthi to spend his last days at the Sai Baba ashram. He had become sick. Some acquaintances had brought him to Baptist Hospital and admitted him there. In the meantime, we got the lab report from CMC and he was HIV positive. So that was my first contact in 1987 with a HIV positive patient. And I was strangely impacted by that because I was thinking to myself, what manner of disease is this that causes a man to leave his family, his friends, his loved ones, his country, and come and die in a land so far away from his loved ones, and die such a, sad and lonely, painful death, that there was no one even available to take his body, and we had to, do the formalities. So that strangely lasted with me for some time, and then for the next few years, we didn't see any patients with HIV. But in the meantime, as you all know, AIDS was ravaging the sub-Saharan Africa. A large percentage of the middle generation in Africa died, leaving behind grandparents to look after grandchildren or child-headed households. There was a lot of concern at that time that India was going to be the next flashpoint for AIDS because we had a very high population, and there was a lot of concern that India is also going to go through this calamitous situation. And it was around this time that we began to see patients with AIDS even among our own community. We didn't have treatment. We just gave them whatever treatment was available. Many times we had to watch them die. And this went on. And around this time, I was, I prayed about it and I made this rather unusual step. I took this rather unusual step of resigning from my full-time cushy job as a consultant in the Department of Medicine and starting an NGO called Asha Foundation. So Asha is actually the word hope, but it's also an acronym and stands for Action, Service, Hope for AIDS. And over the years, depending on the need, we developed all these projects that we have, counseling and testing services, including an HIV/AIDS helpline, and we did awareness programs for patients for vulnerable communities. The second project, of course, was care and support services for children, men and women living with HIV. We did adolescent health education, prevention of mother-to-child transmission of HIV, and a psychosocial intervention for children living with HIV, and capacity building and research was incorporated into each of these projects. So, under the counseling and testing services, we had telephone counseling, face-to-face counseling, providing all the gamuts for HIV counseling. We also responded to email queries. We did awareness programs in vulnerable communities, training, capacity building, and research. So we called Shabana Azmi. Don't ask me where I got the guts to do that from, but she agreed to come, and at that time she was an AIDS activist. So she came and we inaugurated the AIDS helpline. It was the first of its kind in the state of Karnataka. And she made the first call on that helpline. This is one of our counselors doing telephone counseling, face-to-face counseling, responding to email queries that we receive even now on our computers. Awareness program for for the vulnerable communities, for metro construction workers, most of whom are migrant laborers. Police training college, again, migrant laborers, for Anganwadi workers, and for Shahi garment workers at a village called Kudlu village in Bangalore. And this was another awareness program that we did in Whitefield. We also conducted workshops. This was for the Karnataka State AIDS Prevention Society, where we did telephone counseling workshop for their district councillors. And these were some of the papers that we published during that time, because we didn't want to lose out on research, even though we were just an NGO. So at the end of that, over so many years, we've received about 4 lakh calls over our helpline. We've completed at least 36,000 counseling sessions and telephone queries. We've responded to more than 1,100 calls, email queries on the computer. In our care and support system, we provided a free HIV/AIDS clinic with subsidized or free treatment for ART, again HIV testing with counseling, educational and nutritional support for children living with HIV, and ration support for poor families, empowerment of women. In India, there are 2 types of women who get infected with HIV. About 10% of them are women who do indulge in sex work and place themselves at risk, and therefore they get infected. But 90% of the women who get infected in India, and women constitute 42% of all people positive with HIV in our country, 90% of them are housewives, and they don't have any risk. They get HIV positive because of marriage and because of the infection that they've got from their husbands. So very soon after marriage, many of these husbands die, and these women are left, in many cases HIV positive themselves, but not knowing it and living with small children and financially unstable. And they are not able to live with their families because the biological family has already provided for them, got them married, and the in-laws family is not willing to accept them. So we did a lot of service for these people by empowering them through knowledge about HIV, through self-help groups, through job placements, through microcredit, and through providing them legal services wherever they required it. And for the children, we also had an annual sports day and an annual picnic day, and we did do research even in this aspect. So this is the free HIV clinic for adults, for children, testing for HIV, issuing free ART to children. Self-help groups, they meet on the 3rd Sunday of every month at Asha Foundation. Another self-help group where an advocate is giving them advice on legal services and how they should move forward. Free rations, this was for the poor people under the Deccan Bridge in Pune, where during the COVID time, they didn't have any jobs and they were all very hungry. And these are the rations that we provide. We had coming to the annual day, sports day, we had a fancy dress competition and ringing the duck and things like that. We were also able to facilitate free housing for our HIV positive women from the Rajiv Gandhi Housing Society. Picnics, we took them on picnics. We took them on a picnic to Fun World, to Munchinahalli Dam, and different places. And this is some of the research that we published in well-known journals about the quality of life of women living with HIV, and does the socio-economic productivity of people improve after they are put on antiretroviral therapy. So this is our Children at Risk project in a nutshell. Adolescent health education. At the time that HIV/AIDS was becoming a big deal in the late 90s and in the late 80s and mid 90s, about 35% of all people who were infected with HIV were in the age group of 15 to 25 years, and this was true for India also. So we were concerned that this was an infection that would affect our children. So we went in with a preventive HIV curriculum into schools, and we found that schools were not happy. The school managements were not happy. They didn't want us to go in and talk about HIV. And so we came up with a very comprehensive HIV curriculum which covers all aspects that adolescents face in schools, and included HIV as part of that. And this was a curriculum that we developed in-house. So under this project, the Adolescent Health Education Project, or Anmol Ashayein as we call it, we trained teachers from schools at 3-day workshops, and then we gave them this curriculum that we developed. And the trained teachers taught this curriculum for their students over 3 years. So there were 3 volumes, 1 volume in 7th, 1 in 8th, and 1 in 9th. And then there was follow-up by Asha Foundation, and at some point in time, the school takes ownership of that program. So these were the 3 books that we had developed in-house. These are the workbooks for the parents, for the students, and the parents' manual. We focus on the 10 life skills of WHO when we teach this program. This is the master trainer team. They are all teachers and principals of school who have worked with Asha Foundation for 20 years and who make time available whenever we conduct those workshops and come and do it for us. It's a very interactive workshop, so you can see here that the master trainers are having fun. And this is a workshop that we conducted at Mumbai, another one at Pune. This is at Akola, this is at Chikaldara. These are all tribal areas. And just this May, we completed a workshop in Dimapur, Nagaland, which was held through the Kohima Diocese. The teachers have great fun at this workshop, and these pictures just show you some of the interactive sessions and the fun that they are having at the workshops, and enjoying different activities. And these are the students who are doing the curriculum at their schools. Some pictures, I've not intentionally not put down the name of the schools. And this is some of the research that we published in educational journals. So in adolescent health education, we had trained about 3,500 teachers from India, and more than 4 lakh students have completed this curriculum over the course of the last few years. Currently, for 2 years, the curriculum was on hold because of COVID, but now has restarted, and 546 schools are doing this curriculum across the country, and about 45,000 students are using this curriculum. Prevention of mother-to-child transmission of HIV is a subject that's very close to my heart, because you know that if a woman is HIV positive, then there's a 45% chance of her infecting her baby, either during the pregnancy, during labor and delivery, or postpartum through breastfeeding. And then that baby is HIV positive for the rest of its life. By identifying the mother first, and then providing the mother with treatment, you can prevent this transmission from mother to child. And there are 27 million pregnancies which occur in our country every year. That's like the population of a small country. And in this 27 million pregnant women are hidden about 20 to 25,000 HIV positive them if you don't want their children to become positive. So in this program, we actually partnered with 25 mission hospitals from the south of India. We trained their ANC nurses in PMTCT counseling. We did sensitization of the staff in these hospitals, and we gave regular updates when the guidelines changed on PMTCT. And we also provided free HIV testing for poor women who were pregnant. And then we gave free treatment for those women who were identified positive. We gave free ART, free investigations, and subsidized delivery. We also, of course, there was the early infant diagnosis, which goes on up till 18 months because our mothers breastfeed their children. So we had a partnership with these 25 hospitals in the 4 southern states. All of them are mission hospitals. And these are where they are located. But over the years, the number of hospitals reduced, and currently we are partnering with about 11 hospitals in South India. These are the training of nurses that we did from these various mission hospitals. Again, from different mission hospitals, our partner hospitals. These are the nurses who were trained in PMTCT. And we also do site visits to see that they're doing the work properly. This was to ETCM Hospital, Kolar, Ambaji Hospital, Women's Hospital in Ambaji Peta. And these are different pictures that you see about HIV testing, pre-test counseling, because patients also directly come to Asha Foundation, and we train and provide them treatment there, and then we partner with Baptist Hospital for their delivery and post-delivery care. And these are workshops that we conduct for the various hospitals about change in guidelines. Some of the IEC material. This is an interesting story of a family. That's a collage of 3 pictures. That's an interesting story of a family of 4 who first, that's the first picture, who first came to me in the year 2000. That's 22 years ago. And all 4 of them were HIV positive. And the father was the index case. The youngest child died after a year from a very bad septicemia, and the mother died 6 months later from a CNS spinal lymphoma. And she died in spite of all the treatment that she received, which included surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy. That girl was 4 years old at that time, and she was under our care from that time till she grew up. We helped her for her education. We started her on ART. She worked in a beauty parlor because she preferred to do vocational training, and then she got married to another HIV positive man. And we took care of her during her pregnancy. And in the 3rd picture, you can see her with a baby. And her baby is today 15 months old and HIV negative. So that's very satisfying, because that prevention of mother-to-child transmission is one project in which you can see the impact of what you do. And to have a baby that's negative and that can, live the rest of his life, a normal, healthy life, is 100% for that baby. So, prevention of mother-to-child transmission in our country, 90% of children below the age of 15 who are infected with HIV have got it from their mothers during their mother's pregnancy. So if you can control this, like we do with the 2nd generation of people who are HIV positive, then you can control pediatric HIV, because in 90% of cases you can eliminate mother-to-child transmission. And that is the aim that is going on now with what we refer to as EMTCT, elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV. These are some of the babies that were born under this project. All of them are HIV negative and taken about 5 years ago, so all of them are grown up. Hopefully nobody will recognize them. These are some of the papers that we've published under PMTCT, under PPTCT, from the experience that we've gained in handling this. So over the years, we've tested more than 2.25 lakh mothers, and we've treated about 1,100 mothers with HIV, and we've been able to reduce the risk of transmission from 45% to 1.7%. And in the last 3 years, we haven't had a single HIV positive child born under our project. Another project that we did is the psychosocial intervention for children living with HIV. During the period of the mid-80s to early 2000s, we had a lot of children who were born with HIV, because at that time ART was not available and there was no treatment, there was no testing for pregnant mothers, and so many children were born with HIV. And so we started conducting therapeutic recreational camps for these children. And under this service, we had a leadership team which consisted of camp coordinator, an activator coordinator, a logistics and a group leader coordinator, a nurse and a doctor. And we had volunteers trained from local medical colleges who helped us with these camps. And we had these residential camps for all children living with HIV and who knew they were HIV positive between the age group of 10 to 17 years. And after the camp of 5 days was over, we also had reunions at 1 month, 6 months, and annually. And for older children above the age of 18 who were HIV positive, we did a lot of other programs called leadership and training programs, where we talked about career counseling, premarital testing, marriage counseling, time management, etc. And we also did a lot of programs for caregivers. You know, when these children come to camp, like the last camp that we did in 2019, we took 165 children to camp. 50% of these children were orphans, and 21% of them had single parents. And when they came to camp, they were quiet, they were depressed, they were anxious, they were full. And while they were at camp, we provided them with a lot of love, affection, respect, and we taught them different types of programs. These are all structured interventional programmings that we do. And over a period of, a few hours, the children began to open up. And slowly you realize, we made them realize that we can appreciate them for their efforts, and we can make them feel that what they thought was impossible for them because of their disease is actually possible. And they made friendships. They realized that there are lots of other peers like them who are HIV positive and who are also in the same boat as they are, and this gave them strength. And then, of course, they made friends with the volunteers and the leadership team, so there were always relationships that continued even after camp was over, so that they could reach out to us anytime that they wanted. But this particular Camp Rainbow project of Asha Foundation, we don't do it in isolation. We do it as part of a larger program called, it's a part of a global program of 30 camps running across 4 continents. And this camp was initially started by an organization called Serious Fun Network. The founder of that organization was Paul Newman, the famous actor. And he started this camp for children with terminal illness. And we are part of that camp. And these are 5-day residential camps that we conduct. And these are the camps that are held all across the world. And you can see across 4 continents of North America, Europe, Africa, and Asia. This is Clea Newman, who's the youngest daughter of Paul Newman and takes a very active role in the Serious Fun Network programs. These are the volunteers trainings. We give them a 1-week training before we conduct the camp. And here we have chosen volunteers from local colleges, and they are trained over 5 days. And then, as you can see, they are all ready to start the camp. And here we're doing programs for the volunteers and group discussions, etc. And these again are volunteers with their pictures taken in different costumes. And here they're waiting to welcome the campers when they come to camp, which occurs in the next week. And these are the campers sitting with the volunteers and all the various programs that we do with these HIV positive children. And we have a talent night where the children are able to exhibit their singing and dancing and other talents, and they have great fun. They really enjoy themselves. And evening, we have a lot of fun with games. This is the annual reunion of campers that we do, different reunions that we hold at 1 year. And then this is the leadership and training programs that we do for 18 to 25 years. And also for caregivers, we do capacity building. So this is some of our projects under Camp Rainbow. This is my team at Asha Foundation. Many of them have worked with me for several years, and I'm really grateful for their commitment and their dedication to the cause. The next few slides are rather self-indulgent, so I hope you will bear with me. This is some of the press coverage and publicity that we've received over the years, and I'm just showing them to you. This is our AHE program. The language is in Maharashtra, Marathi, and also in Kannada, and different programs that have, different publicity reports that we received for the work that we do in the field of HIV/AIDS. In 2005, again I said, please bear with me because I'm being a little self-indulgent here. In 2005, I received the Akshoka, International Ashoka Fellowship Award, which is an international award given by the Global Association of Leading Social Entrepreneurs for creative work done in any field. And in 2016, this was receiving the Dr. B.C. Roy Award from the then President of India, Dr. Pranab Mukherjee. This was what Alfie had talked about from Dr. J.P. Nadda. The International AIDS Society is the world's largest association of HIV professionals with members in over 170 countries, which includes clinicians, scientists, researchers, people living with HIV, service providers, policymakers, and others, and their entire work is to reduce the impact of HIV. But they're very well known for the huge international conferences that they conduct. 3 of them actually, the International AIDS Conference, which is held once in 2 years, the IAS Conference on HIV Science, and the HIV Research for Prevention Conference. IAS is the term that we use for International AIDS Society. And last year, I was appointed to serve on the conference committee of the International AIDS Society, which is for a period of 4 years from 2021 to 2025. The first picture is that of the executive president of International AIDS Society. The second is that of the current president, Dr. Sharon Lewin from Australia. The third is Dr. Adiba Kamalzuraman, who just finished her tenure as the president and is the immediate past president. Below her is Jessica Whitbread, who is representing the global community of people living with HIV. Next to her is Erika, who represents the transgender community, global transgender community. And then next to them is me representing an implementing organization from India. And because of that opportunity, we are able to do a lot of programs with the International AIDS Society. This was one regional scientific symposium that we held for South Asia on the 18th and 19th of March. The International AIDS Conference was held in the last week of July and the first week of August in Montreal, Canada this year. And here you can see me making a presentation at the International AIDS Conference. This is part of the panel discussion. This is my team which came with me. We took 10 members from Asha Foundation and with the educational fund team of the International AIDS Society. This is the team from Asha and me with the president and the immediate past president. And we also had a booth at the Global Village in the International AIDS Conference, and this is all of us having fun at that conference. What are the challenges that we faced when you do something like this? One of the biggest challenges, of course, is funding. When you're heading an NGO, you know, as a junior consultant in the Department of Medicine, I was sitting in the consulting room and there were patients waiting outside to see me. But then once I started handling an NGO, I found myself sitting outside the room of several funding organizations, waiting for an appointment to meet them to raise money. So the tables had turned and I know how that felt. And another challenge, of course, is the stigma and discrimination that is linked with HIV. And even for people working with HIV, there's a lot of discrimination towards them. And then many people asked me that as a woman, how do you manage to work in the field of HIV? As a woman, how have you managed to handle home, health, hearth, family, and your career? And I can only say that this is a dilemma that all women face. It's not something that I face specially. It's a dilemma for all women. And you have to strike a balance that works best for you. And of course, you require a lot of family support. So here I would just like to, thank my husband because he was a big source of support for me. My husband is Alex Thomas, who's a postgraduate alumnus of CMC Vellore. And we met in the Bangalore Baptist Hospital when we were junior medical doctors. He joined Baptist in 1979 as a senior houseman and worked his way up over the next 35 years and retired as the director of Bangalore Baptist Hospital in 2014. So he gave 35 years of his life to service at the Mission Hospital in Bangalore. I, consider it a privilege to have worked in this field last 27 years of my life. And none of this would have been really possible without the presence of the Lord Almighty. I think prayer is a powerful tool. And I used prayer liberally over the last several decades at challenging times, at sorrowful times, at happy times, at successful times. And I'm really grateful to the Lord Almighty for his guidance, his wisdom, his grace, and his mercy. I'm also grateful that during my lifetime, I was able to see the transformation of HIV from a fatal, life-threatening illness to a chronic, manageable illness today. And that was possible only because of the advent of ART or antiretroviral therapy, which has made a big difference in the lives of people living with HIV. Today, because of ART, we are able to see small children grow up into adolescents, adults, complete their careers, complete their education, start their careers, get married, and have children who are HIV negative. It is because of ART that we are able to see pregnant mothers not transmit the disease to their infants, and the infants have normal lives ahead of them because of ART. And I want to talk about the courage of these women and children who've faced HIV as a chronic disease in their lives and yet have been able to overcome all the challenges that life has thrown at them and lead useful lives and contribute to the country. And that has been extremely gratifying. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Glory, for that ending on a very high note and a very inspirational speech. Thanks for once again inspiring our students to say that they can reach great heights if you just pursue your dream. Thank you for holding up the flag of CMC and true to its motto, serving the untrodden, neglected and shunned part of the population. Thank you very much. Over to Benji for a few housekeeping announcements.
Yeah, so housekeeping. Yeah, that's what we call it. Emergency exits are here, the toilets are there. And right now we're going to have coffee and tea served. We'll ask David Karan. I don't know why I'm picking on you, but I like you. How long do you think it'll take to drink your cup of coffee? Answer is 5 minutes. How long will you take? Okay, so the average length to drink a cup of good coffee is 5 minutes. So we'll meet in about 15 minutes back here for the CME sessions. We have 3 wonderful speakers here. We'll set up in 15 minutes, and Dr. Susina, who's the chair for the CME sessions, is already here. So stretch out a little bit, get inspired, and come back in for an academic feast here.